Open this door and show me identification. Now.
Officer, under the Fourth Amendment, I don't have to provide ID in my own home.
Do you have a warrant? I don't need a warrant for a welfare check. Open up or you're doing this the hard way.
I'm a U.S. citizen. I was born in
illegal.
Pittsburgh.
That's it. You're under arrest.
Officer Marcus Holloway thought he was conducting a routine welfare check. A concerned neighbor had called about raised voices. In his mind, knocking on doors at midnight was part of the job. He had responded to domestic disturbance calls dozens of times. Never questioned, never challenged. But when he demanded identification papers from a woman standing in her own doorway on a cold February night, he made a catastrophic miscalculation. The woman behind that door was Dr. Alicia Chen, 38 years old, a practicing immigration attorney with the Legal Aid Society of Philadelphia. She was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at McGee Women's Hospital on March 12, 1985. She held a law degree from Georgetown University and had practiced civil rights law for 12 years. Her father had served in the U.S. Marine Corps for 22 years. Her grandparents had owned a restaurant in Philadelphia's Chinatown since 1968. She was a respected, hard-working attorney who had dedicated her career to defending constitutional rights. What Officer Holloway didn't know was that 3 cameras captured everything. His body camera recorded every word. Dr. Chen's doorbell camera, mounted at eye level with crystal-clear night vision, documented the entire encounter. And her phone, propped against a hallway table, provided a third angle. That footage would cost the city of Philadelphia $7.6 million. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Marcus Holloway had been with the Philadelphia Police Department for 8 years. His personnel file contained 4 civilian complaints, 3 for excessive use of authority, 1 for racial profiling. All had been dismissed after internal review. His supervisors praised his proactive approach to law enforcement. He believed in his instincts in reading situations quickly. He operated on experience, on gut feelings about who belonged where and who didn't. In his mind, asking for identification was reasonable. People should comply. People should cooperate. The call came in at 11:47 p.m. on February 18, 2023. A neighbor reported hearing shouting from apartment 3B at 1847 Locust Street. The dispatcher noted possible domestic disturbance. No weapons mentioned. No violence described. Just raised voices. It should have warranted a careful approach, a conversation, an assessment. Holloway didn't wait. At 12:03 a.m., Officer Holloway's body camera activated as he approached the third-floor apartment. His partner, Officer Jennifer Rodriguez, activated hers simultaneously. The hallway was brightly lit by overhead fluorescent lights. The building was quiet. Rodriguez's camera captured Holloway's purposeful stride, his hand resting on his belt. The timestamp on all 3 cameras read 12:03 and 17 seconds a.m. when he knocked on Dr. Chen's door. The temperature inside Dr. Chen's apartment was 72 degrees. Outside, Philadelphia sat at 28 degrees, the kind of February cold that made breath visible. Dr. Chen had been on the phone with her sister in Seattle, discussing their mother's upcoming birthday. The raised voices the neighbor heard were laughter, loud, joyful conversation between siblings catching up after weeks apart. She had just ended the call when the knock came. Dr. Chen approached her door in sweatpants and a Georgetown Law sweatshirt, exhausted from a 14-hour day at the office. She'd been home for 3 hours after working depositions in a complex asylum case. She checked her doorbell camera screen. 2 uniformed officers stood in the hallway. "Can I help you, officers?" she called through the closed door. Officer Holloway's body camera captured his response. "Philadelphia Police. We received a call about a disturbance. Open the door." Dr. Chen opened the door 6 inches, the security chain still engaged. Her doorbell camera captured her face. Calm, professional, cautious. "There's no disturbance here. I was on the phone with my sister." "I need to verify that," Holloway said, stepping closer. His body camera recorded the movement. "Open the door completely." On what grounds? Dr. Chen's voice remained steady. Do you have a warrant? Holloway's jaw tightened, visible in the bright hallway lighting. I don't need a warrant for a welfare check. Open the door and provide identification. This is where Dr. Chen's legal training became critical. Her doorbell camera captured every word with perfect audio clarity. Officer, under the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, I have the right to be secure in my person and home against unreasonable searches and seizures. A welfare check requires reasonable suspicion of imminent danger or exigent circumstances. You've confirmed I'm safe. There's no emergency. I don't consent to a search, and I'm not required to provide identification in my own home. Officer Rodriguez's body camera captured Holloway's reaction from a side angle. His face flushed red. His hand moved from his belt to the doorframe. Ma'am, I'm ordering you to open this door and show me ID. Now. I'm a U.S. citizen, Dr. Chen said, her voice still measured but beginning to shake slightly. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm an attorney. I know my rights. You have no probable cause to demand identification or entry. Should police officers be required to have probable cause or a warrant before demanding papers from citizens in their own homes? Comment below. This wasn't just about Dr. Chen. This was about whether the Fourth Amendment applies to all Americans equally, or whether officers can demand compliance based on assumptions about who belongs and who doesn't. Holloway's body camera captured him leaning into the doorway. The hard way, then. You're making this difficult. I'm exercising my constitutional rights, Dr. Chen responded. That's not making anything difficult. That's being an American citizen in my own home. Officer Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably, her camera angle wavering slightly. She glanced at Holloway, then back at Dr. Chen. Marcus, she said quietly, barely audible on the audio feed. Maybe we should. She needs to comply. Holloway cut her off. Dr. Chen's doorbell camera captured the entire exchange with crystalline clarity. The wide-angle lens showed both officers, the doorway, and Dr. Chen's face. A neighbor's door cracked open down the hall. Mrs. Patterson from 3D, her phone visible in her hand, recording. Officer, Dr. Chen said, I'm going to close my door now. If you have a warrant or probable cause, you may present it. Otherwise, I'm invoking my Fourth Amendment rights and declining this interaction. Holloway's hand shot forward, gripping the doorframe. You're not closing anything until I see ID proving you live here and confirming who you are. Why? Dr. Chen's question was simple, direct. What reasonable suspicion do you have that I've committed a crime? The pause lasted 4 seconds. All 3 cameras captured it. Officer Rodriguez's body camera showed Holloway's silence, his inability to articulate a reason. His own body camera captured the view of Dr. Chen, a woman in her own home in casual clothes posing no threat. You look suspicious, he finally said. Suspicious how? Dr. Chen's voice remained steady despite the trembling the doorbell camera detected in her hands. Be specific, officer. What about me? Standing in my own apartment. Appears suspicious. Another pause. 3 seconds. Based on my experience, Holloway said. Your experience of what? Dr. Chen pressed. I've identified myself as the resident. I've explained the noise. I've committed no crime. What specific, articulable facts give you reasonable suspicion? Holloway's face, captured on all cameras, showed barely controlled anger. Last chance. Open the door and show me papers, or I'm placing you under arrest for obstruction. Obstruction of what? Dr. Chen's legal training guided every word. What lawful duty am I obstructing? You have no warrant. You have no probable cause. You have no exigent circumstances. I've answered your welfare check. I'm clearly safe. What law am I breaking by standing in my own doorway and citing the Fourth Amendment? Officer Rodriguez took a small step back, her body camera capturing her retreat. She knew. The footage would later show her discomfort, her recognition that this had crossed a line. But she said nothing. Her silence made her complicit. That's it. Holloway reached for his handcuffs. The metallic click echoed in the hallway, captured on all audio feeds. For what crime? Dr. Chen's voice cracked. Obstruction. Failure to comply with a lawful order. Holloway pushed against the door. Take the chain off now, or I'm forcing entry. Dr. Chen's hands shook as she closed the door, removed the chain, and reopened it fully. She understood the danger of a forced entry. Her doorbell camera captured her stepping into the hallway, hands visible at her sides, non-threatening. I'm not resisting, she said clearly, but I want it on record that I do not consent to this arrest. I have violated no law. I have committed no crime. I am asserting my Fourth Amendment rights. Holloway grabbed her wrist, spinning her toward the wall. Rodriguez's body camera captured the movement from the side. Aggressive, unnecessary force. Dr. Chen's phone, still propped in the hallway inside the apartment, recorded from its angle as Holloway pulled her arms behind her back. The handcuffs clicked shut. Too tight. Dr. Chen winced, visible on all three cameras. Red marks appeared immediately on her wrists, documented in the bright fluorescent lighting. You're hurting me, she said. The handcuffs are too tight. Holloway ignored her. His body camera recorded his own hands as he patted her down, checking for weapons. Dr. Chen stood motionless, completely compliant, her face pressed toward the wall. Then she turned her head, looking directly at Rodriguez's body camera. What she said next would become the most powerful moment of the trial. My name is Dr. Alicia Chen. I am 38 years old. I am an immigration attorney with the Legal Aid Society of Philadelphia. I am a United States citizen. I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, on March 12, 1985. Officer Marcus Holloway, badge number 4782, has arrested me without a warrant, without probable cause, and without my consent. He demanded identification papers while I stood in my own doorway. I am being arrested for asserting my Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure. This is an illegal arrest. This is a violation of my constitutional rights. I am documenting this violation, and I will be filing a federal lawsuit. Every word was clear. All three cameras captured it. Rodriguez's body camera showed Dr. Chen's face, composed despite tears streaming down her cheeks, articulate despite fear. Holloway's camera recorded from behind, showing the handcuffs, the visible marks on her wrists. The doorbell camera provided the wide angle, documenting the entire hallway scene with perfect clarity. Mrs. Patterson stepped fully into the hallway, her phone raised high. I'm recording this too, she called out. This is wrong. She didn't do anything. Holloway turned sharply. Ma'am, step back inside your apartment. I'm a witness, Mrs. Patterson said firmly. I'm allowed to observe from my own hallway. This is America. Holloway grabbed Dr. Chen's arm, walking her toward the stairwell. Rodriguez followed silently, her camera capturing every step. More neighbors opened doors, 3F, 3A, 2C, phones appearing in doorways, documenting. The walk down 3 flights of stairs took 4 minutes. Every camera captured Dr. Chen's calm cooperation, her complete lack of resistance, her continued assertion of rights even as she was being illegally detained. The patrol car sat at the curb on Locust Street, dashboard camera activated and recording. The timestamp read 12:17 a.m. as Holloway opened the back door and guided Dr. Chen inside. He didn't protect her head as officers are trained to do. She bumped the doorframe hard, wincing in pain. Rodriguez's camera caught it clearly. The drive to the 9th District Police Station took 11 minutes through empty midnight streets. The dashboard clock showed 12:28 a.m. when they arrived. The booking area security cameras activated automatically, recording in high definition under harsh LED lights that captured every detail. The booking officer, Sergeant Patricia Morrison, looked skeptical from the moment Dr. Chen entered in handcuffs, still wearing sweatpants and a Georgetown Law sweatshirt. What's the charge? Morrison asked, looking between Holloway and the visibly upset woman. Obstruction of justice, Holloway said flatly. Failure to comply with lawful orders. Comply with what specifically? Identification check during a welfare call. Morrison's expression changed immediately. Her eyes moved from Holloway to Dr. Chen, then back. In her own home? She refused ID in her own residence. She refused to open her door fully and provide documentation. Morrison turned to Dr. Chen. Ma'am, what's your full name? Dr. Alicia Chen. I'm an attorney with the Legal Aid Society. I was standing in my own doorway when Officer Holloway demanded papers without a warrant, without probable cause, and without exigent circumstances. I cited the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution. He arrested me for exercising my constitutional rights. Morrison typed into her computer terminal. 30 seconds passed in tense silence. She looked up at the screen, then at Holloway, her expression a mixture of shock and anger. Dr. Chen, you're showing in our system as the registered resident of 1847, Locust Street, Apartment 3B, Pennsylvania driver's license, current and valid. No outstanding warrants. No criminal history of any kind. Not even a parking ticket. She scrolled further. Born Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Georgetown University Law School graduate. Member of the Pennsylvania Bar in good standing since 2015. Currently employed by the Legal Aid Society of Philadelphia. She looked directly at Holloway. You arrested a civil rights attorney in her own home for citing the Fourth Amendment? Holloway said nothing. His body camera captured him staring at the floor tiles. The booking area cameras captured the next 7 hours. Dr. Chen sat in a holding cell, still in sweatpants and her Georgetown sweatshirt, handcuffs finally removed during processing at 2:45 a.m. The security cameras recorded everything. Her exhaustion as she sat on the metal bench, her tears when she thought no one was watching, her isolation in a cell for the crime of knowing her constitutional rights. At 7:30 a.m., she was released on her own recognizance. No bail required. Charges still pending review. For days after her release, Dr. Chen sat across from attorney David Rothman at the offices of the Civil Rights Defense Fund in downtown Philadelphia. Rothman, 62 years old, had practiced constitutional law for 28 years. He specialized in Fourth Amendment violations and police misconduct cases. He'd won landmark settlements against 3 major cities, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Newark. He was fearless, methodical, and had a reputation for taking cases other attorneys considered impossible. Dr. Chen recounted everything: the late-night knock, the demand for papers, her citation of the Fourth Amendment, the arrest, the 7 hours in a cell. Rothman listened, his anger visibly building with each detail. When she finished, he leaned forward across his desk. Dr. Chen, what happened to you was a textbook violation of clearly established constitutional rights. Officer Holloway violated the Fourth Amendment prohibition against unreasonable searches and seizures. He had no warrant. He had no probable cause. He had no exigent circumstances requiring immediate action. You were standing in your own home. You committed no crime. You cited the correct law accurately. And he arrested you for it. Rothman immediately filed a public records request under Pennsylvania's right-to-know law for all body camera footage, dashboard camera footage, booking area security footage, and dispatch call records. 3 weeks later, multiple packages arrived at his office containing 14 hours of video footage from multiple camera sources. Rothman watched every single second. He watched Holloway approach Dr. Chen's door with no urgency, no concern for actual imminent danger. He watched Dr. Chen calmly and accurately cite the Fourth Amendment from 3 different camera angles simultaneously. He watched Holloway's face flush with anger when challenged by someone who knew the law. He watched Rodriguez shift uncomfortably, recognizing the illegality but staying silent in complicity. He watched the arrest, handcuffs deliberately tightened, marks forming immediately on Dr. Chen's wrists. He watched Sergeant Morrison's genuine shock during booking when she discovered Dr. Chen's credentials and background. He watched 7 hours of Dr. Chen sitting alone in a holding cell for the crime of exercising her constitutional rights in her own home. The footage was undeniable, crystal clear from every angle, irrefutable evidence. 6 weeks after the arrest, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office reviewed the case for potential prosecution. The assigned prosecutor watched all the body camera footage carefully. She wrote a dismissal memo that included these exact words. Dr. Chen accurately cited Fourth Amendment protections applicable to this situation. Officer Holloway lacked probable cause for arrest. Dr. Chen's refusal to provide identification while standing in her own home without a warrant being presented was legally correct and constitutionally protected. All charges dismissed with prejudice. But dismissal wasn't enough. Not for Rothman. Not for Dr. Chen. Not for justice. 8 weeks after the midnight arrest, Rothman filed a comprehensive federal lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Case name Alicia Chen v. City of Philadelphia, Marcus Holloway. Jennifer Rodriguez. Federal charges filed violation of Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure, false arrest and false imprisonment, unlawful entry into home without warrant or probable cause, retaliation for exercising constitutional rights, excessive force during arrest and transport, intentional infliction of emotional distress, deprivation of rights under color of law pursuant to 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. The City of Philadelphia's legal department responded 3 months later with their first settlement offer, $45,000. Rothman laughed out loud when he read the letter. He called the city attorney directly. You arrested a civil rights lawyer in her own home for correctly citing the Fourth Amendment while standing in her own doorway after midnight, and you think $45,000 makes her whole? We're going to trial. The city came back 2 weeks later with a revised offer, $350,000. Rothman refused again without hesitation. This isn't about money. This is about accountability. This is about whether police officers can demand papers from American citizens standing in their own homes without warrants or probable cause. We'll see you in court. 17 months after that midnight arrest, the trial began in a packed federal courtroom in Philadelphia. Civil rights advocates filled the gallery. Local news crews lined the back wall. Cameras pointed at the proceedings. Dr. Chen's colleagues from the Legal Aid Society sat in the front row in a show of solidarity. The jury, 7 women, 5 men, diverse in age, race, and background, filed in solemnly and took their seats in the jury box. The trial's centerpiece came on day 2, the footage screening. The courtroom lights dimmed. 4 large monitors displayed split-screen views, Holloway's body camera, Rodriguez's body camera, Dr. Chen's doorbell camera, and Mrs. Patterson's phone recording, all synchronized to the same timeline. For 42 minutes, the jury watched in complete, absolute silence. They watched Holloway approach the apartment door with no urgency, no concern for danger. They watched Dr. Chen open her door 6 inches, polite and cooperative, asking how she could help. They watched Holloway demand entry and identification without any explanation or justification. They watched Dr. Chen calmly cite the Fourth Amendment word for word, explaining probable cause and reasonable suspicion in clear, precise legal terms. They watched Holloway's face flush with anger when challenged. They watched him lean aggressively into her doorway, invading her personal space, demanding papers like she was a suspect rather than a citizen. They watched Rodriguez shift uncomfortably, recognizing the constitutional violation but staying silent. They watched the arrest, handcuffs clicking shut, tightened deliberately, marks forming immediately. They watched Dr. Chen's powerful statement to the camera, her voice shaking but every word clear, documenting her own illegal arrest in real time while it was happening. 2 jurors cried openly. Others shook their heads in disbelief. One juror, an elderly black man in the back row, wiped his eyes repeatedly with a handkerchief. The room remained absolutely silent except for the audio from the footage. Dr. Chen testified for 6 hours over 2 full days. She described her background in detail: Georgetown University Law School, 12 years defending immigrants' constitutional rights, her life dedicated to justice. She described her father's 22 years of service in the United States Marine Corps. She described that night, coming home exhausted after 14 hours at the office, laughing on the phone with her sister about their mother's birthday, then hearing the aggressive knock at midnight. She described the fear that shot through her when Holloway demanded papers without explanation. She described the split-second recognition that her Asian face made her automatically suspect in her own home. She described citing the Fourth Amendment, knowing she was legally correct, terrified she'd be hurt anyway simply for asserting her rights. Her impact statement broke the courtroom's composure completely. I served this country by defending constitutional rights for 12 years of my career. My father served in the United States Marine Corps for 22 years. My grandparents built a successful business in Philadelphia for over 50 years. I was born in this country. I am as American as anyone in this room. And I was arrested in my own home, in my pajamas after midnight, for having an Asian face and knowing my rights. Officer Holloway didn't see an attorney when he looked at me. He didn't see a citizen. He didn't see an American. He saw someone who looked foreign to him and automatically assumed I didn't belong. That I needed to prove my right to exist in my own home. That's not law enforcement. That's racial profiling. And it violated everything this country is supposed to stand for. Several jurors openly wept. Others stared at their hands, visibly shaken. Professor Michael Sterling from Temple University Law School testified as the expert witness in constitutional law. He walked the jury through the Fourth Amendment's warrant requirement, the narrowly defined exceptions, and decades of Supreme Court precedent establishing clear boundaries. He was absolutely unequivocal in his professional conclusion. Officer Holloway violated clearly established Fourth Amendment rights that have been settled law for decades. The Supreme Court has held consistently that absent a warrant, exigent circumstances, or freely given consent, a police officer cannot enter a home or demand identification from a resident standing in their own doorway. Dr. Chen correctly cited the law. She accurately explained the constitutional standards. Any reasonable officer with basic training would have known this was unconstitutional. This wasn't a mistake made in the heat of the moment. This was willful ignorance of constitutional protections that every police officer swears an oath to uphold. Officer Marcus Holloway's testimony came on day 4. Attorney Rothman's cross-examination was surgical, precise, devastating. Officer Holloway, what probable cause did you have to demand Dr. Chen's identification? It was part of conducting the welfare check, sir. What specific facts suggested Dr. Chen was in danger or had committed any crime? The initial call mentioned shouting and possible disturbance. But Dr. Chen told you immediately she'd been on the phone with her sister. She appeared completely calm, healthy, safe, standing in her own home. What probable cause remained at that point? Holloway paused for 5 full seconds. Based on my experience and training. Experience with what specifically? Be precise, officer. Experience with people not being who they initially claimed to be. Dr. Chen offered to show you her identification voluntarily through the door. Didn't she? Your own body camera captured that offer, correct? She didn't open the door fully, no sir. She didn't have to open her door fully, did she? The Fourth Amendment doesn't require American citizens to open their doors without a warrant being presented. You know that, correct? Another long pause. She was being difficult and uncooperative. Difficult? Or exercising her Fourth Amendment rights as she's legally entitled to do? Which one is it, Officer Holloway? Holloway had no coherent answer. The silence stretched painfully. Rothman continued relentlessly. You saw an Asian woman in an upscale apartment building and automatically assumed what? Exactly? That she looked suspicious? That she didn't belong there? That she needed to prove her right to be standing in her own home after midnight? I don't engage in racial profiling, sir. Then what probable cause did you have? What specific, articulable facts justified demanding papers from an American citizen in her own doorway? Complete silence. Holloway stared at his hands. No answer came. The city's defense team attempted to argue qualified immunity, claiming Holloway had made an honest mistake in a difficult, fast-moving situation. Attorney Rothman absolutely destroyed that argument in his closing statement to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, The only thing that was difficult about that night was that Dr. Alicia Chen knew her constitutional rights. She cited the Fourth Amendment accurately and completely. She explained probable cause, reasonable suspicion, and warrant requirements in clear terms. Officer Holloway didn't make a mistake. He made a deliberate choice. He chose to demand papers without justification. He chose to arrest her when she refused to comply with an unconstitutional order. He chose to ignore the United States Constitution. That's not an honest mistake made under pressure. That's exactly what the Fourth Amendment was written to protect against. That's exactly why we have constitutional rights in the first place. The jury deliberated for 4 full days. Dr. Chen waited at her apartment, surrounded by family and close friends, anxious, barely eating, sleeping maybe 2 hours each night. On the afternoon of the 4th day, her phone rang. Rothman's voice was calm but urgent. "Alicia, they're back. The jury has reached a verdict. Get to the courthouse immediately." Dr. Chen rushed downtown through traffic. The courtroom was standing room only, packed with supporters, media, and observers. She sat beside Rothman at the plaintiff's table, her hands trembling uncontrollably. The jury filed in slowly. Their faces were unreadable. Foreman Margaret Walsh, a 54-year-old high school teacher from West Philadelphia, stood holding a single sheet of paper. The entire courtroom went completely silent. You could hear people breathing. "We, the jury, find in favor of the plaintiff, Dr. Alicia Chen, on all counts." The courtroom erupted instantly. Cheers, sustained applause, tears flowing freely. Judge Harrison banged his gavel repeatedly but didn't immediately stop the celebration. He understood the moment's significance. Dr. Chen collapsed into Rothman's arms, sobbing with relief and vindication. Her father, sitting in the front row wearing his Marine Corps dress uniform, stood at attention and saluted his daughter with tears streaming down his face. The damages phase took an additional week of testimony. Clinical psychologist Dr. Robert Kim testified in detail about Dr. Chen's diagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder, recurring nightmares of police breaking into her home, severe panic attacks triggered by knocking sounds after dark, hypervigilance, and inability to feel safe in her own apartment. She'd installed 3 additional security cameras and 2 extra locks. She slept poorly, averaging 4 hours per night. She struggled to focus at work, her performance suffering for the first time in her career. Economic expert Dr. Sandra Liu meticulously calculated lost wages from missed workdays, ongoing therapy costs, and the diminished value and compensation appropriate for severe constitutional violations. She explained to the jury that punitive damages must be significant enough to send an unmistakable message, that constitutional rights matter fundamentally, that violations carry serious consequences, and that this kind of misconduct cannot be allowed to happen again. 3 days later, the jury returned with their damages decision. Judge Harrison read the verdict form aloud in the silent courtroom. The jury awards compensatory damages in the amount of $1,600,000 for emotional distress, violation of constitutional rights, false imprisonment, and related suffering. He paused, looking up at the packed courtroom. The jury further awards punitive damages in the amount of $6 million, calculated specifically to punish this egregious constitutional violation and effectively deter future misconduct by law enforcement. Total monetary award, $7,600,000. The courtroom erupted again, louder than before. Even Attorney Rothman, who'd seen major verdicts before, looked genuinely stunned by the amount. Dr. Chen buried her face in her hands, completely overwhelmed. It was officially the largest civil rights verdict in Philadelphia's history. Within 48 hours, Officer Marcus Holloway was terminated from the Philadelphia Police Department. The department announced his firing in a detailed public statement, citing gross violation of constitutional rights, abuse of authority, and conduct unbecoming a police officer. Federal prosecutors filed criminal charges for deprivation of rights under color of law 3 weeks later. Holloway faced potential prison time. Officer Jennifer Rodriguez resigned before she could be formally terminated. She accepted a plea deal with federal prosecutors requiring her full testimony about the department's culture of demanding immediate compliance over respecting constitutional rights. Her law enforcement career ended permanently. She never worked as a police officer again. In the months following the historic verdict, the Philadelphia Police Department underwent a comprehensive review conducted by the United States Department of Justice. The city implemented sweeping, mandatory reforms. Quarterly Fourth Amendment training required for all officers regardless of rank, a new strict policy requiring supervisor approval before any welfare check could escalate to demands for identification or entry, and an independent civilian oversight board with subpoena power to investigate potential constitutional violations. Dr. Chen established the Fourth Amendment Defense Fund with a significant portion of her settlement. The fund provides completely free legal representation to individuals whose constitutional rights are violated by law enforcement officers. In its first year of operation, the fund represented 47 clients across Pennsylvania, winning 39 cases and securing over $3 million in additional settlements and verdicts. Dr. Alicia Chen became a powerful national voice for constitutional rights and police accountability. She's testified before the United States Congress twice about urgent police reform needs. She's delivered speeches at 15 law schools about Fourth Amendment protections and the importance of citizens knowing their rights. She's appeared on national news programs sharing her story and advocating for change. Law professors across the country now use the footage from that February night as a primary teaching tool. A clear example of a citizen correctly asserting constitutional rights and a police officer catastrophically violating them. The case, Chen v. City of Philadelphia, is now regularly cited as binding precedent in Fourth Amendment litigation nationwide. The body camera footage is mandatory viewing in police academies as a definitive example of what officers must never do. Civil rights organizations reference Dr. Chen's calm, articulate assertion of rights as the gold standard model for citizens facing unconstitutional demands from authorities. And in Philadelphia, Dr. Alicia Chen's case became an absolute legend. A powerful reminder that the Fourth Amendment protects everyone equally, that demanding papers from American citizens standing in their own homes without warrants or probable cause has severe consequences, and that sometimes standing firm in your own doorway at midnight and refusing to back down is the most courageously American thing you can possibly do. If you believe that constitutional rights apply equally to all citizens regardless of appearance, that police officers need warrants and probable cause before demanding compliance, and that knowing your rights isn't suspicious behavior, it's patriotic duty, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Tomorrow we have another powerful story showing exactly what happens when officers forget that the United States Constitution doesn't include an exception clause for people who look different. Because the truth, when captured from multiple camera angles and proven beyond doubt in federal court, has the power to hold accountable even the most powerful institutions in this country.